Well, hey there, Luskos. Welcome back to the podcast. My name's Levi.
And I'm Jennie.
And we are so glad that you've taken time out of your Thanksgiving week to spend with us.
That's commitment.
It really means the world.
Yeah.
Maybe you have this on and you're brining a turkey. Maybe you're peeling potatoes. Maybe you're getting your DoorDash ready, all loaded up so it's ready to come tomorrow.
That's what I'm talking about.
And whatever the case, be careful if you're frying that thing. We have a wonderful heaping portion of the pod today for you, for your cooking enjoyment. We have our friend John Eldredge on the podcast. I feel like John was a little bit throughout the conversation, because I did this one with John myself.
Yeah.
We did it mano a mano.
Makes sense.
I feel like he didn't quite know what to do with me as the conversation went on. He's like, oh, you're a little of a stalker, because I'm such a fan of his.
Yeah, you are.
His writing really helped change my life.
And he was a little uncomfortable with that?
I think as the conversation went on, he realized like, oh,
he realized how awesome you are and not how weird you are.
I don't know. I think I came on a little strong is what I'm trying to say. Like when I interviewed Charlie Duke, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just like, you're a little too excited.
Start off a little more chill.
To play it a little more cool. No, but in all seriousness, you've had your life radically impacted by his wife, Stacy.
Yeah.
Her writing.
Yeah. She wrote a book called Becoming Myself.
And Captivating.
Yeah.
And those two books really have impacted you.
Yes.
Well, I told him that.
Yes. Oh, good.
And then his book, Wild at Heart, so many men.
Yes.
And we talk about that in the book. If you're a parent of a boy specifically, this conversation would really be, even just talking to him since then has been in the back of my mind and heart as I've been approaching parenting Lennox.
Wow.
Specifically. Just rethinking through, he shares towards the end, some real quick things a father can do to minimize the wounding of our boys and maximizing the healing of their hearts. And we talk about rite of passage. We talk about intentional, celebrating how they go from child to adult, which is such a passion for us.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a free resource at levilusko.com where you can download our kit on putting together a rite of passage for your child.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about that. People ask us all the time, so that's there. But this conversation will be a blessing to you and just help you understand what a man needs to thrive and survive in a broken world.
Yeah.
And how we can help our boys, our sons, and of course daughters too, but because it's Wild at Heart.
And young men in our life as we're leading small groups and youth and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
good.
Before we dive into it, just want to say how grateful we are. So many of you have been participating and are participating with us in this year-end movement to raise funds to launch this women's prison in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah.
We're inviting the Luskos family to take part. You can use the link in the profile, make a year-end gift, tax deductible. We're giving towards it as well. We want to see our podcast fam and our greater online, family. We're trying to mobilize to
specifically in the
to purchase a
area,
prison church in Utah for women to generationally change,
Yeah.
and God to release the gospel through it. So
Yeah.
if you click the show notes or the YouTube description, you could take part in that. Thank you for considering that. Thank you for those of you who have already given. I know it's going to continue to happen. The Luskos mission trip, want to keep that on your radar. We've had so many interested people where we're going to Hope Hills Camp to serve families who have someone in their home with special needs and their family at a summer camp specifically for that. With Jay and Catherine Wolf, we're inviting the Luskos to come on out. The dates are on there if you want to get them, and that's all out there as well. What a fun thing, a Luskos mission trip.
I'm excited about that.
But I know Jennie and I want to, from the bottom of our hearts, say how thankful we are that you listen to this, like it, subscribe to the podcast, follow us on YouTube and social media, and let us be a part of your life.
Yeah, we love you.
Happy Thanksgiving, Luskos. Enjoy this conversation. Well, John Eldredge, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
It means the world. We've been working with your team for a long time to get you on. You're a busy man, but it was worth the wait. So we're glad you're finally here.
You guys are so patient. Thanks for your kindness.
Yeah. Of course, we're going to get into a conversation. I got a lot of questions to ask, but I did want to, with the holiday tomorrow, Thanksgiving, as people are listening to this conversation, what do you guys have planned for Thanksgiving this year?
So we actually get the kids. We get the kids and the grandkids this year, which is awesome. When your kids begin to marry and then when they begin to have families of their own, you got You got to split the joy, and they head off to their in-laws sometimes. But we got the rotation this year, so we'll have just about everybody at the house.
Okay, so that's an important question for me because my oldest is 19, so we haven't had to face any of that yet. So do you get them to line that up, or are there years where it's kind of different?
Do this right away, everybody. It was so funny. When our third son got married, his older brothers who knew the lineup said, okay, it's Thanksgiving this year, Christmas next year. So yeah, get everybody lined up so that you can be together when you can be together.
So they each go to their in-laws one year, but they do that at the same time. So it's not like random. That's very smart.
Exactly.
And they came up with that idea, or you did? How did you guys end up on that?
I think it was kind of a mutual thing. Yeah. And we like, okay, you can have Thanksgiving, but we get Christmas, or since it's Christmas this year, we don't expect you for Thanksgiving. And we got into it. It's a good rhythm, and now everybody kind of gets it and goes with it.
Okay, so it's when it's an off year, what do you do and your wife do? Are you guys like, let's just go to Cancun, or what do you guys do?
Like will happen actually this year as well. There's always the lost, the strays, the people that need a home and a place to come. So yeah, we've got a young man coming practically off the streets with us this year, and he just needs a family and a place to be.
Come on, that's amazing, and that's on brand for you. So, and are you involved in the kitchen and the cooking, or do you have a specialty? Is there something? Are you like are you frying the turkey? What do you do?
Okay, so the kids. When I say the kids, I'm talking about our sons are in their 30s.
Right.
Okay, they rebelled against turkey a couple years ago. They're like, we don't like it, we don't want it, and so we love wild game. We're a big wild game family, and so I'll smoke an elk backstrap, and we'll do like wild mushroom gravy and stuff, something like that.
Okay, so you are a bow hunter, from what I understand, and elk is your favorite. Is that are you a mule deer? Like what are your big conquests?
I love elk and deer equally. I mean, both to pursue.
Yeah.
And whitetail.
Okay.
We'll do a whitetail hunt down in Texas. But I'm a bow hunter for the joy. I'm a rifle hunter for the freezer. Okay. It's just the reality of it. Many bow hunters go hungry. So yeah, it's something I do with my sons.
And I know you're famously into fly fishing as well. That's been like a big love of yours for a long time, right?
Yeah, it used to be an addiction.
Is that not still as much in your life?
Oh, I adore it. God literally had to have me give it up for a season because I was running away. When I was in my 30s and raising a family and going to grad school and all that, I used it to escape. And I think I used it to escape my wife, who was struggling with depression at the time. And it can be healthy or not healthy. Any of the things that we do, right? Going to the gym, reading books, watching your stuff on YouTube, it can be healthy, it can be not healthy. And for me, it had tipped over into I'm just running away from life. And so God told me to lay it down. And then there was this beautiful story one day. I had been cleaning out my garage, so I had a bunch of gear in the back of my truck, including my fishing gear. And I'm driving down the road, and Father says, let's go fishing. And I'm like, no way, man. You told me to give this up. I don't think this is you. He's like, no, I'm serious. Today's a good day. Let's go. And so I actually went down and had this beautiful day fishing, and it was almost like he gave it back to me and said, you can handle this now. So yeah, I do adore it.
Interesting. It's fascinating to me how what can serve you in one season can then hold you back in another. I mean, Egypt for Joseph's family was salvation, but then in the next season, it became slavery.
Right.
So we can't just say like, this is forever, always. There is really an ebb and a flow. Because I think for me, seasons, I never fly fished ever. Living in Montana, which is a crime. I mean, it's such the river runs through it, all the things.
Was not going to bring that up, but
yeah, I mean, we ended up here not for like, we didn't move here because of fly fishing and skiing and, hiking. We came here because we felt God wanted us to come start a ministry here. And we discovered, really, it was the pandemic, and I'll get into it. But in my getting my life back, kind of journey in 2020, I discovered fly fishing as a way to find a little bit of inner healing and beauty and quiet. And, some of the midlife stuff I was dealing with, that became for me, especially 2021, 2, 3. This year it hasn't been as much, just the nature of travel and life. And but when I see my fly rod, it makes me smile because there was some very therapeutic moments on the river, the calming of casting, watching a dry fly or a hopper and not being able to worry about anything else but that. So I like hearing, like, I am going, it was my safety hatch, and you're going, it was my running away from things. It's crazy. We're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. People do it with we obviously do it with chemicals and stuff we shouldn't be doing it with, but people do it with any good thing, right? Skiing, backpacking, travel, like going to the gym. I have friends who
Amazon purchases.
They might genuinely be addicted to that stuff, right?
Without doubt. Yeah. And not knowing what, and you're always having to redefine, does this still belong in my life? Is it taking from me more than it's giving to me? I think we have to always be reevaluating things, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you invite God into all of it, which is kind of what we're supposed to do life with God, right? If you invite Jesus into all of it, he'll talk to you. And sometimes it'll be a really big surprise. There have been vacations that Stacy and I took that ended up being huge blessings that I would have never taken if I wasn't open to giving Jesus my calendar. And, we'll sit down at the beginning of the year and say, okay, Lord, the year is yours. The calendar is yours. Like, what you want, what you don't want, bring it, remove it. And we went, this year was our 40th wedding anniversary. So we went, I asked Stacy what she wanted to do, and she wanted to go to Scotland. And there's a little bit of me that was like, okay, like cool, but all right. And it ended up being this wonderful, wonderful trip because God was in it. But I've also taken trips that God was not in, and they turned out to be disasters, right?
Wow. Well, first of all, congrats on 40 years of marriage. It's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Come on. Yeah.
And what you're saying reminds me of that proverb, better a dinner of herbs where love is than the fatted calf in hatred. It's like you can have the best trip ever, but if it's not right, for whatever reason, human speaking, God speaking, it can be bad news.
Totally. It's really hard to buy joy.
Ooh.
Right? Like we think we can. I mean, look, I'm an Amazon purchaser. Yeah. I buy stuff, It's very hard to buy joy. But when God's in it, even if it's just a dinner with friends, it can be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It also reminds me of, just any of those things. David was not supposed to use the slingshot. He was supposed to, or the armor of Saul, he was supposed to use slingshot. But as time went on, you don't see reports of him continuing to use slingshot. That he did eventually, it would seem, take on armor. So it almost is a constant journey to discover what in this season is going to lead to that joy, like you're saying, and what is the battle strategy now. Because there came a time where, I think about David staying home from battle and ending up with Bathsheba, but then later on, his men said, please don't keep going out to battle. We need you. You're more valuable to us alive than dead. So don't go. Like, you just have to stay sensitive to the Spirit and aware of that joy tank, right? Is that the secret? Am I anywhere near the neighborhood there?
No, you are naming the secret. The secret is, have you noticed that God never gives anybody the master plan? He never does this. People pray for it. Lord, what am I supposed to do with my life? He'll give you the next thing. Because if he were to give people the master plan, they would go do it. Without God.
Without God.
Yeah, that's the problem.
And ruin it, probably.
Oh man, it's so deep in human nature. Independence, control, fear, passivity, or aggression control, whatever it is. the secret that you named and the beautiful life is intimacy with God, where you are genuinely walking with him, whether it's dinner with friends or it's a full-blown sermon, mission, big, deal for the kingdom. It's all the same. Like, we do life with him and invite him into all things. And so therefore, like with David's case, it's like right now you're a slingshot guy and then you're a sword guy. And then I need you to be a king, and you're actually no longer a warrior. That is a tough stage for men. Like, guys who really dig the warrior stage have a hard time moving into maturity, right?
Yeah.
But each stage, if we hold on to yesterday's manna, if we hold on to what worked in the past, it's not the same thing as walking with God.
Wow. That's profound. Let me pause. I should have said this at the beginning, but I just want to thank you for what your life's work has meant to me personally. I discovered Wild at Heart as a young youth pastor 20 years ago, I would say, and maybe 21 years ago now. Reading it had a profound impact on me. Not only the content, but also the writing style, your voice, the way you turn phrases, and so that would be for me a keystone book. Similarly, my wife, Jennie, who's my better half, she read Captivating by your lovely wife Stacy, and it was a similar trajectory shifting moment for her. And we both are just so grateful for what you two have meant to us from afar. Then flash forward to you releasing Get Your Life Back. I took my small group, a group of young, we called it the Young Lions group. It was single guys on our church staff who are all younger. And, the Bible says young lions will not be hungry. And so we took them through this book, and that book was so wonderful. Get Your Life Back, which those who are listening, all of these books are high recommendations on my list. But that one was so fun because it was all about the receiving of beauty into your soul and getting outside. And like I said, that was right around the same time I was rediscovering nature in my own life. A mutual friend, I believe, Peb Jackson of ours, made a substantial impact in my life and challenged me to go outside more and all those sorts of things. We did the final small group. You will love this. We would discuss the chapter week by week, but the final one we did a hike in silence. So we hiked this mountain in silence, all thinking about that week's chapter, and then on the top we discussed of the summit the final week. Anyhow, so all that to say, I just want to thank you for what your writing, your words, your life has, and your wife as well has meant to us, how it shaped us.
Oh, thanks. That's beautiful to hear that. Yeah, to get your life is a fun story. They're all really fun stories because it's life with God. But I wrote Get Your Life Back. It came out February, 2 weeks before the pandemic. And we didn't know how badly the pandemic was going to clobber people and really clobber mental health, right? And so to invite people into a way of living into reasonable, sacred rhythms and the things we talk about in the book, like, wow, Jesus, thank you. That's so cool that you did that for your people without us knowing that 2 weeks later, this, global thing was going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. You talk about how we need water, we need, food, we need all these things, but you presented an idea that I've never heard anybody else articulate, that we also have a need for beauty.
Yes.
We have a need for awe. And that was met in the Garden of Eden. And living in the modern city, there's a diminished amount of experiences. You can go a whole day or a whole week without having an experience of beauty, of nature, of awe. And you just talked about, and you said it, and the data does bear this up. I mean, I've found secular studies that bear up to the fact that an experience of awe that you would get looking at a waterfall or looking at a beautiful painting, both will increase creativity, blood flow, sense of well-being, less stress. And so but the way you put it is, you said, don't just rush through it though. Oh, that's a pretty waterfall. You say, I receive this into my soul. I
Yes.
receive what I'm seeing into my soul. I acknowledge, I take a moment and not just going to get a photo, which is kind of sadly where we've gone with it. Oh, that's
Yes.
pretty. Let me get a selfie, as opposed to just stopping and saying, I'm drinking this beauty into my heart. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good because, one, we've been taught to rush. So we rush through everything. We rush through meals, we rush through books, we rush through podcasts. I mean, I was literally, okay, I was talking to my staff yesterday and I had shared a podcast with them, not our own podcast, but someone else's that I really enjoyed. And I'm like, hey, you guys really need to listen to this. And people were saying, I'm too busy. Give me the time codes of the section you want me to hear. And I'm like, people, holy cow, man, we are maxed out. Like, that's not okay as a culture. Like, that's a cultural symptom. So when you stop with beauty, there's a moment where it's a song, it's a movie, it's a moment, it's something in nature, and you stop and you linger with it. That is actually healing the soul. And it is reprogramming your neurochemistry. Next time you can do it longer. And after that, you can go from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. You can start doing it for 5 minutes. And then you can really enter in. When I'm walking through, now I don't live out in the idyllic world. I live in suburbia. But like most people, I can get to an open space pretty quickly, take the dogs there, go for a walk. I will touch things, touch the tree bark, touch the wet earth, smell things. It's my way of getting out of a digital world and letting it get into my humanity, because you were meant for a garden, not a smartphone.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, right?
Peb would always call that the nature fix. He would say, literally, nature does fix things. And I was like, that's such a simple way. And now, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys were involved at Focus around the same time when you were at Focus?
Yeah. We used to climb together, and yep, he was a good pal.
Yeah, Peb went home to be with Jesus a few years back, and his wife did you get any of his items?
No.
Okay, so his wife, Sharon, took all of his adventure things, his fishing gears, ice axes, and she put them on one of those auction websites, not to make money, but so that the people who Peb had positively impacted could take an item and continue to journey with it into the world, and it could be a way for him to legacy live on. I bought a jacket that he like a shell. And I sent her a little photo of like the first time I summited a mountain in it. And he so impacted my life in a positive way, and was someone I loved to talk books with. And we chatted a few times through his cancer journey. Anyhow, I just knew you guys had been, I didn't know how much overlap there was in y'all's lives.
Yeah. Cause we ended up living, we live in the same town. And so, yeah, he is a beautiful guy.
But what you're saying resonates with that phrase, the fix of nature, which is distinct from looking to nature as God, but looking to it as a gift from God. Because you do hear people say, well, I don't go to church, I just go to nature. That's not what you're saying here. We're talking about church, just not as a replacement for God, but a blessing from him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Resilient, which is your newest book. Of course, you've done re-releases, which we can talk about, but the newest book you've released is Resilient, which is, correct me if I'm wrong here, and I devoured it, loved it, a book all about margin, just how we need space, the corners of our life unmowed. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, an author hates to have 268 pages reduced to a meme. But
that's what I took away from it, as I think and recall back to what it would have meant to me.
Yeah. I'm not scolding. I'm just saying.
No, I'm sorry to do that. I apologize.
No, buddy. I love you. Here's what I'd like folks to understand about Resilient is, if you want to check on how you're doing, you look at your reserves. You don't look at how am I today, because you might be doing great on caffeine right now. You might be flying high on, you got a good grade on an exam or that kind of thing. But if you look at the reserves of your soul, if I were to tell everybody, hey, guess what? Another pandemic's going to roll through next week, and we're going to all go through the whole lockdown thing again. How does your soul respond to that? Right? Like, it tells the story of reserves. When your friends text you and say, Mayday, I need a phone call, I need you to help me, do you respond joyfully? Like, oh, awesome, chance to love? Or do you go, oh, gadzooks, I have no room for this? That's the margin thing you were talking about. That we can't just keep living breath to breath, a little bit of help. You got to have deep reserves. You actually have to form resilience in your soul to live in a mad world like this. I mean, this is a mad world, folks. The human experience in this current moment is literally going to destroy you if you do not have an intimate union with God.
Better said than the book is about margin. But that's a great, that is a great concept just to think, because I think the way, how it hit me was, we have these reserve tanks, we use them, and then when depleted, if we don't take the time to intentionally refill them before going into that next wild season. So it's just looking at your year, your life, the seasons, and just thinking, how do I strategically refill this, as opposed to just, up and then staying up and then artificially staying up, right? Sugar-free Red Bulls. And because there are some seasons where we do need to just, hey, it is what it is. I mean, I think about in my life, my dad went home to be with Jesus over the Easter season this last year. And that was a intense time. You got to rally. There's no sense that you can't be like, oh no, I need me time. It's like, it's a funeral. We got all the things. I was the executor of the estate. There's all the drama. But if you go straight into the next crisis without at some point refilling your tanks, that's what you're saying, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good example, because that happens to everybody. You can't plan for crisis, but what you have to then think about is recovery. So we've just been through a really intense season, loads of house guests, which we love, loads of mission and ministry, international travel. But where's the recovery time? Athletes know this, triathletes and stuff. When you're training big time, if you don't allow recovery, your performance it actually falls off a cliff. Recovery is more important to the body than training.
Wow.
Is that wild?
Yeah, I think LeBron James spends $1 million a year just on recovery. I heard that from one of his shooting coaches. Like, that's all he does. Like, that's a line item in his Excel spreadsheet of life, right?
That's it. There you go. So folks, what I want you to think about is, first off, is your current lifestyle sustainable? Right? Like, run it out 5 years. You go, is this pace sustainable over time? For most people, the answer is no. Okay. And then secondly, you do have to rally. Like, we all have to rally. Your dad passed away, man. I'm sorry. Like, those are big, big life moments. And yeah, executor of the estate and family relations and all that has to be navigated. Where's the recovery time? So here's what I'm wrestling with right now. Here's my current dilemma. I could go elk hunting this weekend. I have a tag. But I think I need not to put myself through that right now. I think what my body and soul needs more is just recovery. I think I need quiet and simplicity, because it's just been people, mission, go. And this would kind of be one more. I love it. And sometimes it's nourishing. But where's my recovery right now? Where's the weekend where I just dink around the house.
And you're talking about the same thing, because there have been no doubt seasons in your life where elk hunting was your way of refilling your tanks. But in this moment, if you went on that, it's an adrenalized response. You're humming up mountains. You're doing all of that. And so you would come home needing what you instead could be doing in that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we get into, see, this is one of the really tricky things about the human soul. So when life is full of stress, the compulsion is get on top of everything. Solve it, solve it, solve it. Okay. But that will get you into a cycle of never taking a break. There's no Sabbath. There's no Sabbath rhythm to your life. It's just solve it, solve it, solve it. You know, get the kids to soccer, get the project done, stay up late tonight because you're behind on email. You just solve it, solve it, solve it. But there's no Sabbath. Where's the recovery time? Like you'll burn out. That's not sustainable.
Wow. Yeah. Or even the Jubilee year, or, whatever it is, like this, a greater sense of margin.
Totally.
Wow. And that's highly personal. So not everybody's going to refill their tanks in the same way or deplete at the same rate, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And like I said, you can't predict the crises. You just can't, right? But what you can do, first off, you should look at your calendar and go, where's the margin? You should have margin because the crises are going to hit. Are
there rules of thumb that can apply on that? I mean, obviously Sabbath you referenced, is there anything that would be like across the board, some principles of course it's, there's college, there's when you're first starting in a career, like there are some times when there's rally seasons, but are there some rules of thumb that we can put into like date night type things for marriage that we can apply to reservoir?
Well, first off, God instructs you to rest one day every week. I mean, do you even do that? Most people don't even do that. Like that's a simple one, guys. There's Sunday's Sabbath, or if Sunday doesn't work, it's not like we're not legalists, right? Like if you have a Sunday shift, you're on the road or something, or if you are in ministry, Sunday is not your Sabbath.
The heck it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you got to have one then, right? But I actually want to swing the conversation back around to intimacy with God, because the beauty you were describing, nobody's life is like anybody else's. If you're a trucker and you've got a shift, that's very different than a high school student who's got a pretty regular routine. If you have grandchildren and you are actually the primary caregiver, if you have a special needs child and you're the primary caregiver, man, that is a totally different life, than maybe a CEO who's actually got some margin that he goes out to lunch and he golfs on Saturdays and stuff. Okay. The point being is walk with God. Listen for the voice of God. Ask him about your schedule. Ask him about your pace of life. Like the point is to bring him into all that you're doing. Are you in this vacation, God? Because if you're not in this, I'm not going. Wow. What do you think about our winter plans? See, people, I've been a therapist for a lot of years now. And the crazy thing is the family obligation thing. And people say to me, oh, no, you don't understand. We have to go to the family reunion. There's no getting out of this. And I'm like, really? You are grown-ups and you actually have volition, okay? You might need to disrupt the family culture by saying, we can't come for Christmas this year. Because secretly, you don't have to tell everybody the reason, but secretly your wife and because it's exhausting.
It's not necessarily going to fill the tank up. Yeah.
Yeah, gang, there's a whole difference between family visits and vacations, right? Yeah. So you're asking God, you're like, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Is it time to buy the car? Is it time to change the jobs? Just get him into everything, folks.
Great. It's beautiful because it's less about a list you're making and more about a Lord you're serving and actually functioning as though he were in the room with you because he's in your heart,
Yeah,
seeing what he says.
totally, buddy. That's it. Then now Sabbath and rest, and so now we've just got a new set of pressures. All right, now we got to do that right. No. There's a more beautiful life. The beautiful life is life with God.
And like you're saying, it's a little bit of acknowledging the opportunity cost. Because if we do buy that new car or is that going to bring more pressure or is it going to bring more presence? It's like there's always this sense of, well, I need to level up now or I need to do this now. But it's like, man, how much nicer is it going to be just to have that space as opposed to,
Yeah, my son's used the cost-joy ratio on anything. Cost-joy. So I could go elk hunting this weekend, but anybody who does that knows, oh, wow, I got to go grocery shopping and I got to get all my gear together and I got to repack my pack from the last trip. And then it's a drive out, and I'm taking a new guy with me. So now I'm kind of mentoring. Okay, that's cool, but I just stack up the cost and then go, when I get home Sunday night, what kind of condition am I going to be in?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm going to be exhausted.
Versus reading a book on the couch. Maybe that's what the doctor ordered, right?
Yeah, man, watching some sports, taking a nap, taking the dogs for a walk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Very good. Okay, can I shift gears a little bit because I do want to, for those listening who, unlike me, haven't had an experience with Captivating or Wild at Heart, and let's use Wild at Heart because we're just two guys here on the conversation today, but you have really helped men understand and not feel bad for who God made them to be as men. Your wife has done the same thing for the woman. I feel like in our day, it's undeniable men are not doing well. In every metric you could possibly look at. Can you just a little bit I won't belittle the book down to one thing because I've learned the hard way and I'm going to learn from it. But talk to me about why that book has resonated with the millions of men that it has, and a little bit about that. I mean, I have my rough notes here. I mean, just figuring out who you are, what the wound is, the adventure, the beauty to just kind of walk us through a little bit about that book, because I think for those listening who might go, man, I'm gonna snag this for my husband for Christmas or my son, or whatever. Just could we go there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love that message. Okay, first big idea is that you have a masculine soul. You're not just a human being. You have a masculine soul. There are no like gender neutral souls. You either have a feminine soul or you have a masculine soul. And the masculine soul has a whole set of needs, longings, passions, fears that you got to pay attention to, fellas. You're not just a person. You're a man. Okay. Next big idea is the primary need of every little boy is does my dad love me, and do I have what it takes? That the search for belovedness and the search for validation. This is so deep in the masculine soul. So you're walking around now as a masculine soul in the world, and that masculine soul, I'll guarantee you, is carrying some pretty significant wounds. For most men, the answer is, did my dad really love me? Did he tell me he loved me? Did we hang out together? Was there wrestle time, toy time, Lego time? And then as you get older, do we ride bikes together or travel or start a company? Or, did my dad love my company, being with me? Most guys, the answer is no. And right in there, the book talks about the core question, the search for validation. Do I have what it takes? Your dad was designed to tell you and to set up a bunch of scenarios where you discover you have what it takes. You're strong, you're powerful, you're smart, you're brave, you can do this. And if you don't get that from dad, or from a male source. You could get it from a community of men. You could get it from a youth leader. You could get it from your uncle, but it needs to be from a male source.
This is Timothy with Paul the Apostle, or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Most men are still they're running for validation for places where they feel like they might be able to get it. Like, so if they're crushing it at work, man, they are just putting it. Work is everything. It's their God. Or if they're crushing it at the gym, right? Then it's all about like fitness and, winning the competition or whatever it may be.
Or the Iron Man, or, whatever it is.
Yeah, all that stuff. Most of what men do is we run from anything that's going to expose us as not having what it takes. And so your 16-year-old daughter, she's in a bad place, and your wife says, you need to talk to her. And the husband's like freaking out because I don't know that I have what it takes there. I'm going to be exposed as the idiot, the fool so I'm going to stay at work instead. The search for validation is deeply tied to the father wound. Every man carries a wound. Might be from mom, might be from dad, might be from a first girlfriend, but every man's got a wounded heart. You can't ignore that stuff. It has shaped you into who you are today. It shaped you into what you're running from, right? Like guys that pass over a promotion at work and everybody's like, what the heck, man? You're awesome. Why did you turn that down? He's scared to death. He doesn't have what it takes. Yeah. Or guys who's just chasing the next woman. He's on his third wife. And the reason is he thinks the woman is going to finally solve that for his soul. But no woman can tell you who you are as a man. It doesn't work. So these are some of the core themes of the book: the search for validation, the poser that we become, the fig leaves that we wear. But primarily, the good news is this: God's mission is to heal your masculine soul and set you loose upon the world.
I mean, John, is powerful. It's just even hearing you put it so succinctly. I have one of my favorite quotes from it. You talk about, if you were going to live in God's kingdom, it's going to take every ounce of passion and forcefulness you've got. Things are going to get fierce, and that's why you were given a fierce heart. And I just think about the deep that calls into deep when you hear something like that. And I think there's a reason it's resonated with men around the world. And I can't think of a more needed time for us in our filling out our gender. Even United Airlines, what gender are you? Undecided, prefer not to say. Like, there's just such a sense of confusion, and the enemy is seeking to confuse and blur the lines. And so to have a not a hateful, not a condemning or judgmental, but a clarifying, calming voice saying, hey, here's why there's confusion, and here's a path to healing. And then that beauty, that strength, that joy that can't be found at a dinner table, that needs to be found in the woods and opened up to that life of adventure.
Yeah. This is big. This is really big, because this is Genesis, guys, that you are created in the image of God, male or female. Gender has so much dignity to it. It's not stifling. It's not socially constructed. It is literally how you bear the image of God. It is as a man or as a woman. And that warrior heart in you, when you asked me to summarize Wild at Heart, what I was going to say was permission.
Oh, wow.
It's Wild at Heart as a book is permission to be a man. You have a warrior heart. And because, see, the thing is, it's like the adventure and the battle are very different for men. Some guys want to start a company. I have no interest in that. I'm not an entrepreneur. It's not my gift set, right? Some guys want to go into research. They want to get their PhD. No interest in that. But for them, that's their fight.
That's a war. Yeah.
It is, man. And if you don't have the warrior heart, you will never finish that PhD, right? It'll kick your butt, okay? So you have to harness the warrior heart. You got to heal the warrior heart, okay? And hook it up to your core purpose. right? And so, yeah, some guys, get energized by getting in the woods and chasing elk. For other guys, it is creativity. They might be musicians, and getting in there and composing something really beautiful. That's the adventure. Okay. So we're not saying every guy's got to be a lumberjack.
There's Jacobs and Esau's. Yeah. Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
But both Jacob and Esau do need their core wound addressed, right? I mean, you have in that family, as an example, such dysfunction, such favoritism. Obviously, Jacob was always looking for the love he never got from his dad. No doubt Esau with his mom, all the different things. And Isaac only loved Esau for what he could do for him, not for who he was. So, I mean, so for all of us, there is a need, even with the best of dads, earthly speaking, to acknowledge there's still damage, And I think I'm thinking about this book now differently, because I was reading it as a 20-year-old, looking at life, thinking about my family. Now I'm 42 and I've got a son, and I'm going, what wounds am I accidentally giving him? Because it's happening, right? I mean, we can avoid it all we want to, but even the best of us are still doing damage to our kids in some regard, right?
Yeah. And then you have to add to that, like the environment that kids grow up in right now. Like if they're in a public high school, it is nearly traumatizing. You go from the possibility of shootings and violence and bullying to gender dysphoria and are you in, are you out, what's hip, what's not. Like the world is a brutal place. And the world traumatizes the soul on a regular basis. If you are not healing your masculine soul through union with God, right? The world's going to chew you up and spit you out, man, or just make you really angry or bitter. You got to hook up to the source. The soul is healed through union with God. That's the core kind of magic. The soul is healed through union with God. God wants to heal your masculine soul. He wants to validate you. He wants to speak to you what you never heard. I'm proud of you. You're killing it. Amazing. Good job, son. Let's go. Right? We need that. And not just once in your life. You need it weekly.
And once that happens, you're free to be comfortable in your own skin. You're free to not be self-conscious. You're free to not numb and all the different things we heap on to give us validation as fig leaves, like you were saying. And then we can extend that healing onto our daughters and our sons alike, our wives, and it can go up the family tree too. I mean, I think you can extend healing to your parents, even who did hurt you or whatever, right?
Oh, forgiveness is a powerful thing, folks. Forgiveness is a powerful, powerful thing.
I'm curious, we in our family think a lot about rite of passage. We think a lot about our kids being intentional. The Jews have bar mitzvahs and, just guiding them along the path of becoming a man or a woman. What did you learn in initiating your sons into manhood, and that could be helpful for us listening?
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so we could groove on this for like 3 weeks, right? Okay. Because masculinity takes place through deliberate initiation. And you go to any of the primitive cultures, everybody knew this for millennia. How do you turn boys into men? The answer is only with intentionality. It doesn't just happen. And so it happens in 2 ways. There are these watershed moments of community recognition, right? The bar mitzvah, the celebration,
Spirit quest or whatever that Native Americans would do.
But that falls in the category. And in addition to those moments of celebration, the boy becoming a man and the young man becoming a mature man needs initiation from a father figure and from the company of men. So I very intentionally, I taught my boys rock climbing when they were young. Because what rock climbing does is it puts you in an immediate context of fear And do I have what it takes? And if you scale it appropriately to the age, they love it. And they come out of it a sense of, I got it. Like, man, I crushed that. But now that they're older, the initiation's not over, right? Like, I still meet with my sons. I vacation with my sons. I hang out with them because the initiation keeps going, right? So my oldest son is now a therapist. Well, that's pretty cool, right? Because I was. And to meet with him, talk about clients, offer some thoughts, continue to father him in that. What I'm describing is there is both commemorative moments, like what are you doing at 13? What are you doing at 16? What are you doing on their wedding day? What are you doing at these key moments of life? You need to speak into their life, okay? But there's also the initiation process. And if you'll observe the heart of your son and daughter, you can identify where are their fears that they need help overcoming, where are their deep questions where you can speak into their identity. And this is a tough one for dads. You're going to need to celebrate parts of them that are not like you. Okay? So my youngest son does not like to hunt. And we used to hunt together. But he doesn't like it. And he's like, do I still delight in him?
Yeah, right.
Does he get as much delight as the sons that I hunt with? He better, right? So now I got to find the places that I can go with him and delight in him. So the initiation process needs to be tailored to the soul of the individual, okay?
Beautiful. Yeah, that's great. Because we had 4 girls in a row and then 1 boy. And I feel like, I'm not saying we got it with the girls, but there is a little bit of a sense of like, okay, I know the beats, I know the movements of raising a young girl. It's so different with him. And so I feel a little bit like, I joke that I'm a little bit more of a grandparent to him than a dad because I'm just tired. We did it 4 times and then now it's like we're doing it with him. We're a different season of life than we were. We had gotten rid of all of our kid stuff. God surprised us with him. But I am, all my theories are like I'm actively looking for and hunting for a new model and watching that. So that's very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. You are the apple of my eye and you have what it takes. If you speak that to him 1,000 times over the next 10 years, he is going to be a phenomenal young man.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you, John. For a man who's listening to this who goes, well, I was 7, I didn't get that. It's not too late. That can happen retroactively. And that's sort of the thesis or beating heart of Wild at Heart, right?
Oh, it's my story. See, Wild at Heart is a wild story because here I am fathering men around the world. But my dad was an alcoholic. I grew up in a horrible alcoholic environment, and he broke my heart. And I had to go get this and find it, and ultimately through the friendship of men. But guys, there's a reason God is your father. Okay. He is your dad. God will father you if you invite him to. In fact, he's been doing it all your life. He's trying right now. And you're misinterpreting.
The holy hound of heaven, yeah.
Yeah, you're misinterpreting what's going on. The bounce checks, the flat tires, the daughter. He's initiating you, fellas.
Wow.
Okay? But to let him love you, let God love you, and let him tell you what he thinks of you is transformative.
Josh, yeah, gosh, your words are a tall drink of water. I mean, it's a joy to just sit with that. And I know people listening are going, dang, I need more of this. So get Wild at Heart, get Captivating for the females listening out there, or read the Wild at Heart if you're a woman to know what God's doing maybe in the life of your man or your son. I also do want to talk about, because you have a docu-series that's looking back at, what is it now? Almost 20 years of Wild at Heart, right?
Oh man, so free right now on YouTube. We just released these beautiful films telling the story of men's healing journeys. And the thing is, like, this is why the whole small group thing works and group therapy. This is a fascinating thing about group therapy. You get 70% of the healing in the room without even being the object of attention.
Wow.
Because as you listen to someone else's story, this is Revelation 12, right? Through the word of our testimony, we overcome. We are telling stories of men who were wounded, who were broken, who blew their marriage up, who, and who God has brought a healing journey. So that's Wild at Heart, the series. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's these exquisite films.
And this is the Wild at Heart YouTube account for people who are looking for that.
Yeah.
I saw the preview coming through. I saw some of the footage. It's powerful. And it's because the book released in 2008. Is that right?
2001.
Okay. So it must have been a re-release in 2008 that's dated on Amazon. Okay. So 23 years ago. So you've taken some of the stories of the men who have had their lives powerfully changed and told them artistically on.
Yeah. All over the world. Yeah. The story is universal.
It's incredible. And then the newest re-release is the Sacred Romance workbook that released November 12th of this year.
Yeah. So it's a wild story. So the first book I wrote with my partner. At the time, we were both young therapists. He was a mentor. We wrote a book called The Sacred Romance. It's not a marriage book. It's not about dating. It is about the search for beauty, intimacy, and adventure that's in every human heart that God put there. That book had a huge run. I mean, it healed 1 million lives. It fell off the radar. And so we just re-released The Sacred Romance right now, this month, into the world, just to kind of, because there's a lot of young people, especially, that are asking deep questions of faith. How does my story make sense? Particularly, if God is good, how does my story make sense? So the Sacred Romance is like, it's like a year of therapy for $15. I mean, it's a very healing book. And it's a cool thing to give to young people who are trying to figure faith out.
I think that's the only one of your books that I haven't read. So I'm excited to
well,
dive
there you
into
go.
that.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And then you have a new book that's coming out next year called Experiencing Jesus Really. Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. I'm stoked about this one. So Get Your Life Back, Resilient, and Experience Jesus are almost like a trilogy. Christianity, if you look at the stories of Scripture, the first thing people need to understand is the Bible is not a book of exceptions. The Bible is a book of examples of what any human life looks like when you walk with God. Okay? It's all available. It's all there. John says in his first epistle, the reason I'm writing to you about Jesus is so you can have him too. Okay? The Christian life is meant to be deeply experiential. And so what Experiencing Jesus does is it's a guided, it's almost as if I was your spiritual mentor. I want to walk you through a series of experiences, prayers, understanding, so that you can come into the fullness of life with God as every human being was meant to experience it. God's not an idea, folks. He's a person.
Which is a theme to what we've been talking about this
entire he's a kingdom. Yeah, like there's a whole cool world out there waiting to be experienced.
Wow. Okay, that's great. That comes out next year. For any of these books that exist, are there young readers or kids versions of them?
No, I didn't want a franchise, Wild at Heart would be killer for any young man.
Looking at this going, whoa, if there was a young reader version of Wild at Heart, my son would be all over that. I know,
but you could start at 16. 16-year-olds get it.
I understand you want to pander and turn it into McDonald's, but man, if this is one dad going, dude, a kid's version of it would be so sick.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair request.
But I'm not trying to give you more work because obviously your body of work is impressive. Our time together has been a joy. I'm going to let you on your way, John, with heartfelt appreciation and because tomorrow's Thanksgiving, a big gratitude for what your work's meant to my life. And I know everyone listening is going, well, I'm sitting here crying in my car now, so thanks for that. But thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Yeah, God is pursuing you, everybody. He's after your heart. Tune in.
And may you enjoy the backstrap tomorrow.
Right?
You said the most interesting thing. You said, we prefer the taste of game. I'm like, dude, what are you, Isaac? And this is Genesis. You're like, he preferred the taste of game. That was the most amazing sentence that's been said on this. Most people don't like gamey food. That's pretty good.
Yeah, they don't have a game chef. It wasn't cooked right.
Well, there you go. So
Yeah.
there's something to look forward to. Well, John Eldredge, thank you
Happy
for coming on
Thanksgiving.
today. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks, pal.
Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to swing by levilusko.com and jennielusko.com to see what's going on in our world.
And make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And in the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media.
Jennie and Levi Lusko out.
Access more